T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Launch Sequence Podcast. Welcome to the Launch Sequence Podcast,
ladies and gentlemen. Live broadcast.
We are doing this episode live. I am joined by TheAstroPub, one of my favorites, and as you probably just saw, because this is live and many of you won't see the unedited or the edited version of this, the sound was off for, I want to say, the first 2 minutes of this. So
yeah.
we're coming back in, and I'd just like to introduce you to the Launch Sequence Podcast, where we talk about Star Citizen. And if this is your first time, I promise they don't all start like this, but we have a great guest today. TheAstroPub has joined me to talk about 323. And generally I have you on like every month. But as I was saying, I've shown some restraint this quarter, and it's been like a solid 14 episodes since you've been here. So we got a lot to catch up on with 323. We got a little bit to talk about with features that have been discussed. I'm thinking bed logging. I'm thinking master modes, maybe some fauna stuff. And I also want to pick your brain on what's coming after 323, now that it's finally live, where we're going this summer. So thanks so much for joining me, dude. How have you been?
Yeah, thank you for always. It's always good to have you invite me over. I'm doing okay. My day job is winding down for this contract season, so I've got the summer off and then back to school next year. But I've got a lot more time to do content because for those of you who don't know, me, I do a lot of lore content, mostly Star Citizen, but other things as well. And I'm currently like head deep into a complete history of Anvil Aerospace. And I was lamenting to Space Tomato before we were live about like there's so many problems with the dates and some of the descriptions that CIG uses for some of their ships. It's really shows that Anvil was like the very first. In fact, I think it actually predates RSI in terms of lore. Like RSI existed, but RSI lore wasn't written until after Anvil's lore was written.
Okay, that's weird.
So it is super old. Like there are some aspects of in the very first story that CIG wrote, which was Cassandra's Tears, which is kind of it's a Squadron 42 tie-in novel, by the way, like a novella, which is technically it's technically like a pulp fiction, in-universe pulp fiction about an actual pilot in Squadron 42. It's like a dime store novel sort of thing from the Westerns. Anyways, they reference they call them the Anvil fighters. They don't even call them Hornets. They call them Anvil fighters because they didn't have a name for the Hornet yet.
Yeah,
because they didn't have a name for the Hornet yet. So they're just going.
We know the
Anvil
company.
Fighters.
They've got a spaceship and it's a fighter. So use your imagination.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So
if you didn't know, Paul is a teacher in real life just as much as he is a teacher in the good old Star Citizen verse. So he gets to trade off some of his time. You don't indoctrinate those children with Star Citizen, do you? You leave them be, right?
They are. Yes, I leave them be. I wouldn't even try because they would laugh at me. The kids are all right. They would be like, "You mean that scam game?" You
freaking nerd teacher.
But, yeah,
We're still playing Beyblades, all right? Get up. Sorry, that was my childhood. I don't keep up. So, all right. Enough of that nonsense. Let's talk about Star Citizen. 323 has gone live. Whew.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Man, was that the longest?
Oh no.
PTU
no.
phase.
318 is still the longest.
Well, phase. Okay. That it goes without saying. Besides 318, though. Were there any others like that? I feel like there was one in this summer, the kind of quarter 2, quarter 3.
Yeah, there was the 3.263 one where it was like from 263 to 3.0, but I don't know if there was a PTU for 3.0 that long. It was similar to that though. There's been a couple of them that have been almost as long as this one, because this one's released in like March, I want to say, right? The first Evocati came out in like mid-March. So we're talking like a month and a half. So it's longer than average, I'll say. So those of you who are new, this is not normal in terms of the length of the PTU, but 3.23 is not a normal patch. So
they're also doing the whole ePTU thing. Can you help out some folks with that? Because they say They say ePTU, but then they're like ePTU to everyone, and there's also PTU waves. Help me out.
So I believe ePTU stands for extended PTU.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have they only go to ePTU if they're using the PTU for another testing round. So either PTU was unavailable, or they just happened when they wanted to release the PTU to everyone. It may have been something like PTU is being used for um, testing for Evocati still, or some like kind of back testing. And when they wanted to go to PTU to first wave, so they just put it into the ePTU and let it out there. But ePTU is usually like the extended PTU, so it's like something that's or extra PTU. I don't remember which one it is. It's effectively another
experimental
just kind of
PTU.
It might be experimental PTU. The idea being is that it's a secondary PTU that's usually the one that's the opposite. It's usually the one that you never see unless you're like an Evocati member.
Right.
You might see it on your dashboard, and you usually don't have access to it. But it's really just a copy of the PTU is all it is. So it's the same.
So now but why not just use the PTU?
I don't know. I don't know. The tinfoil hat conspiracy theory in me, Miss Me said that there may have been testing something with limited groups that may have been surrounded 4.0 or like other aspects of the game that we didn't know about. But it could also just be a clerical.
Okay.
It could just be that Wako just hit the wrong button, or
just stuck with it.
Yeah. So the launch teams just went whoops. Okay, whatever. It's already there now. It's in those servers. We'll be fine.
Well, it was a good time playing in the ePTU. And now that it's finally live to the whole servers, we are seeing the actual launch. A lot of people were scared this is going to be another 3.18. What are you seeing so far?
No, it's not 3.18. No, it's not 3.18. There's definitely some issues, but most of the issues came from what happens, and I think this is going to be a trend going forward. This is going to happen in the next major patch, and the next major patch after that, and the next major patch after that, which is the Star Citizen hug. Old backers know the Star Citizen hug phenomena, where the fans will hug the servers to death because they jump into it faster than the devs realize. Yeah. So basically CIG didn't have enough servers, like login servers for everyone. So when they spooled it out and they pushed it out, they were overwhelmed with the number of people who wanted to get in. And I remember when I hopped in, like a couple hours after it went live, the queue was at 6,000. I think it was up to 6,000 to 8,000 people in waiting. It was going pretty quickly. It said estimated wait time was like 50. It was like an hour. It took me about 30 minutes to get in. But that tells you how many people were looking to get in. There was a much higher volume of people jumping in, which makes sense. 3.23 is a pretty big patch in terms of anticipation. There's a lot of hype behind it. So a lot of people wanted to jump in and try it because there's just not a lot of people who do PTU because it's so big. It requires such a huge investment of your computer's memory that a lot of people just don't have the time, the patience, or the hardware space to do it. So,
yeah, I personally didn't really do the PTU much before I started covering them. Even when I was doing YouTube videos at first, I wouldn't really jump in. I would just cover whatever it was they were telling us. It's like 90 gigabytes, something like that's like the same size as the regular game, right? 90 gigabytes now.
Yeah, it's the same size.
That's not
double
easy.
The size of the good. Yeah, they double. So it's like, I guess what's that? 180 gigs of space, which, there's a lot of storage space now. Like you can get a 1 terabyte drive for pretty cheap, but there's a lot of, people are video gamers. They have a lot of games. I can tell you that my drives are almost constantly pinged with games that I don't stream. Like that is because every game is like, because every game is like 90 to 150 gigabytes these days. So it's like because storage space is good for everyone, for everywhere, then developers know that, so they take advantage of it. And CIG is relatively restrained in terms of how much they've put, how much they optimized for, or how much they like the size of their release compared to the scale of their universe, compared to like the ridiculous additions that COD can do for almost nothing.
Do you remember the Delta or the before the Delta launcher? I guess it was the pre 3.0 launcher.
Yeah.
That was.
Oh yeah.
You just had to re-download the entire game every time there was an update.
Yes.
That was bad. Which is, now we're seeing the next launcher in 4.0. So I'm guessing the next launcher we'll get is, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything because then somebody's going to quote me and say, he said beta.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen is Uri tends to watch the stuff that I pop on because he's my editor, and he will edit this segment and be like, "Tomato promises next launcher will be beta 1.0."
I'll DMCA him right now. Proactively take it down. So the update so far, 3.23, has been having trouble with logins, but like, have you been able to, have you gotten into the game? Have you talked to people who've been playing it? How is it performing itself as a game?
I had a problem logging in the first place. Like, I got it downloaded, created a character, and I couldn't even give the option to launch. Couldn't even get into Arena Commander. So I did everything I could, and then I restarted my computer, and then I got in. But when I got in, my initial experience, and your mileage may vary because as the servers get old is when you start to see a lot of the problems with like low server frame rates and other things like that. But I was seeing almost no lag when it came to input lag. There was the performance was actually really, really good in terms of the individual performance. The server FPS seemed to be pretty good because the AI were walking around and actually doing stuff. At a couple times, I actually did a double take because I thought an AI was a player because of the kind of the actions they were doing. It was just like, that's an AI. Everyone's like, that's a player. No, that is definitely an AI. Based off of my experience, it's good. The initial impression is good, and the people who are in my community who've been talking about it say it feels like a game now. 3.23 really brings Star Citizen into that realm of this is a game you can play, and this is a game that you can play that you can enjoy. The lot of the jank has been removed, so the like just clicking F to do things, it makes it so much easier. But you're gonna have to, especially for us veterans, you're gonna have to train out your initial like overcoming the jank, where you had to like hold down F and do all these different like movement shenanigans to get it to work. Now it's just it works.
It's been rough trying to do that, trying to not. Gosh, it's such a hard habit to break.
And there's a lot of new keybinds and stuff like that, which some of them are a little odd. I'd like for them to take another once over. Like, I'd just like to be able to buy an item if I hit F. That's like a food item, like a handheld item. I want to hold down F. I want to be able to hold it in my hand rather than have it
go into like the city's inventory,
the city's inventory, or my backpack, and there is a way you can go in your hand, but you have to, while you're holding F, tap Alt as it's finishing, and it'll put it in your hand. It's like,
that's obscure. I didn't know
it's
that
really
one.
I was told that. I'm like, that's just annoying. That's
a weird one. So you think this is a good enough improvement, the way you're talking about like jank being removed? Is it such a sudden change that you'd say new older players who were taking their time away from the game, this is the good patch to jump back in?
Yes and no. Yes, if you've been waiting for like a smoother interface, better performance, improved AI, improved flight experience. It's definitely feels more like a game that you can pop in and try and enjoy for more than just a couple of hours. The problem with it is that it still is Star Citizen, and there are still bugs, there are still problems, and will probably see a return to the queue, as of this recording, shortly, because the number of people trying to hop on over the weekend is going to increase. You'll probably see a lot more, as the servers get older and they start crashing. We're going to see a lot of those like recovery error problems.
Yeah,
we'll see more bugs over the weekend that CIG wasn't able to catch because they didn't have the volume to test them. on the PTU.
Right.
So that's still going to happen. So like if you are okay with an alpha state, but you just want a cleaner experience that's a little bit more user friendly, yeah, it's definitely one to come back on. But if you were somebody who, like me, was really looking forward to things like the changes in your hangars and your inventory management and stuff, maybe hold off until after Invictus when the next big major patch 3.2, 3.1 or 3.2, 3.2 brings a lot of that content in, and CIG has some time to really work through some of the bugs and kind of fix some of those issues. So it's like a lot of Star Citizen patches these days. It's really frustrating because you can sit there and go, this is really cool. It's like a game. It feels like a game. It's like we're almost there. And then, within a couple of days, it's like the game is back to AIs gathering in corners on large pieces of furniture and falling through planets, and players falling through planets, and massive pop-ins, and dumb AI, hostile AI that just stares at you, and while you're staring at them, that kind of stuff.
Are they going to go back to standing on chairs?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
I mean, no. This is one of those things that I've come to terms with a long time ago. I don't think AI are not going to be standing on chairs, T-posing on chairs. That's going to be something that CIG that's going to happen with the game until like 1.0.
I hope it's forever. I hope Star Citizen is always known as the NPCs on chairs game.
I hope that CIG intentionally codes that in as a behavior they do, as like an odd behavior, to make it kind of lore friendly or make it universe friendly. So, you see people standing on chairs, like they're protesting or something like that. Some obscure thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's just a religious belief. It's Saturday, so they stand on chairs. It's intimidating, making themselves look bigger. Yeah.
It's like all the gangs do this when you have negative reputation. They just get up on their chairs. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You first.
I was saying instead of turning their back on you because they're like, oh, we don't trust you, they just stand on chairs and T-pose for dominance.
And stare you down.
Yeah. We don't want you, go away.
We have the high ground. What is the most significant dejank that you think we've seen in 3.23?
The map system.
Yeah.
100% the map system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not even a contest. They've improved the visual experience of navigating. They've improved you can now like chart routes and it'll automatically chart for you. You can type in the location if you're like, oh, I don't know what's where is it? It's in Microtech. Where's Microtech? Microtech. Boom, pops up right there. Yeah. Hit route. You're done. It's so nice. It is such an improved experience.
I cannot wait until actually, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. What do you think of being able to set a route like when you're on foot, and then that takes you to your ship, and then from the ship to the other place, and then from the other place, it guides you again on foot? Do you want that whole process to be laid out, or do you like how it is? Yeah.
Yes, I would love to have that process laid out, but I'd also love to have interference as possible. Like, your ship is here, and you are here, and you can go to that direction, and you want to go to this other place, but maybe there's a solar storm that's going on, like a coronal mass ejection in Pyro, or a thunderstorm, like a big bad storm's coming through. Now you can't see, like there's an obscuring area, so like you walk into the thunderstorm, where the thunderstorm is, your character, like where your location is, pops out of existence, or just starts jittering around to different locations. So it's like a scrambled, like you don't know where you are, and you can get lost, and you have to start using other navigation methods, like maybe your compass or something like that. Because I don't mind ease of access, and in fact think that's a good thing for more people to be able to travel where they want to go. But I also want more, especially when you're starting into remote and distant areas, for it to feel like you're still way out in the wilderness, where your navigation may not be as precise as it was before, so you have to be kind of careful about it. So
yeah, I definitely still want them to do downloadable maps. I found it. They've kind of shied away from talking about that, I guess, because it's not a 3.23 specific thing. But how do you feel about how the map system is kind of like it's there and it's improved a ton, but it's still like one step away from real exploration? Because you're the artifact guy. You go and you look for stuff, you get the things.
Yeah.
And
It's tantalizing. It's like it's almost there. It's almost there. But I
Yeah.
do think that a lot of what it is, it's really just it's a lock behind features. The resource system, for instance, the scanning systems, the stuff that they've been kind of hinting at, and they hinted at it at CitizenCon, and they've been kind of teasing it in monthly reports that they're working on the scanning system. So they have an idea of what the scanning system is, and that's why the Cutter Scout exists. Is it's specifically supposed to be used that new system. And I gather it has to do with the new resource system because that has emissions and such with it too. So I get why we don't have more, because they need the other systems in place to start implementing those gameplay features. But I also look at the monthly reports and see, oh yeah, resource system. That's every single department is heads down on that aspect. And with that makes me go, we're so close.
I do hope that I hope that the systems like the map can match that, because not having being able to place waypoints in the map right now is painful. And I really want to hope and believe that that's right around the corner, that we'll see that in like 4.0, whatever the next patch is.
Yeah, I really hope it's 4.0. The cynic in me goes 4.1, because like I still feel like 4.0 is gonna be, we're gonna have all the hype for 4.0, and then CIG is gonna just start ripping out content from 4.0 to just get the bare minimum of pyro and servermeshing in.
No, that sounds awful, dude. That sounds
it does, but I mean that's what's important. 4.0's main importance is just
servermeshing.
Servermeshing and pyro, and those are the things that really matter for the gameplay, or for the game itself, right? For 4.0, and everything else can kind of come in later. I get
the strong like feeling of wanting to have another 3.0 moment with 4.0, and maybe that won't happen because it feels like they've kind of spread that moment out between 3.23 and 4.0. Would you say that 3.23 already feels like another 3.0 moment, or is it missing that little extra bit that was the planetary tech that we got then?
I think it's close. I think it feels more like what 3.18 should have felt like. It's like a 3.18 redemption arc is what it is. Comes out around the same time as 3.18, in the kind of first quarter of the year, or first half of the year. And it's mostly focused on new technologies, but also some like kind of quality of life improvements and such. So, but I don't think it'll take away. I mean, I still have a tiny bit of hopium inside me. I still, a little bit of snorting of that hopium.
It's caught in your mustache.
Just a little, just still there. So it comes in, every so often. But that I would love to see more 4.0. Like 4.0 in my mind is the perfect 4.0 is the resource system, new scanning, bounty hunting, improved reputation system, a complete overhaul of the economy system, and pyro and server meshing. Like those, all of those things combined are like the ideal 4.0. But the realist in me goes, the only thing that matters is server meshing and pyro. Everything else can be pushed to a 4.0.1 or 4.0.2 or 4.1. So
they definitely need to have a good amount of new missions. Like the game, I feel like that's one of the biggest things to make it feel like a game, is having some fresh new missions for people to do. I think when I've been playing 3.23, some of the best moments, I guess I haven't had that many best moments, but one of the best moments I had was actually just yesterday, and I was playing through a mission in a distribution center, and it's, fairly similar in the sense that I was going through and just kind of shooting people, but people had on different clothes, different roles. It was a new location, so there was a lot of different dynamic to moving around, especially with the other players with me, and it felt like a new mission. It felt fresh, and I think that's one of the biggest things that makes it feel different than it did before. Not to say that they really got that much into 3.23 that does that.
Yeah, there's more of a feeling, I think you're right, of diversity. That the game is growing, and it's becoming more than what we thought it was, than we've experienced before. You know,
Yeah.
I remember one mission I was doing a bunker mission, and I peeked around the corner, and I did kind of like, okay, it's like I'll treat these NPCs as if I was actually fighting NPCs in another game that with reactive NPCs. So I peeked around the corner and shot. As I shot and killed one of the NPCs, the other Ninetales just turned and looked at me, and I was like, "Oh, you're going to start shooting at me." And they didn't quite start shooting at me in the right away. What they did is they turned and looked at me and raised their guns. But I could tell what they were doing was they couldn't quite see me because I just peeked around the corner. So they started moving towards me because they were like, "We know someone's over in that corner, but we can't see them." So they didn't just start blind firing. And so then I peeked around the corner, and then one tried to dodge into cover away from me, and I shot him. And then the other ones, like, I could tell like their AI was just off because like there was a railing, so their AI was telling them that was a blocking thing, even though you could shoot through the railing and they could see me. So they're just like because like it couldn't quite move.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where, oh, these are reacting to me. They're actually moving around, but I could also tell it's like, kinda. There's still some problems
They're
there.
so bad sometimes, man.
Yeah.
I love when they're yelling all their wild lines,
Oh yeah.
getting all aggressive
Hey.
with you, but they don't actually do anything.
I love that they yell wild lines now because their wild lines were broken for so long. They would just silently go move at you. So
Yeah, they were silent killers. Well, dyers, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So 3.23 has a lot of the oomph that players might be looking for to get back in. But like I said, missions are pretty important, and a lot of players will say it's some players, if you want to get real extreme with it, some players will say that everything that anybody cared about or that mattered has been removed from this patch. Now, I won't go that far, but one of the bigger things in the update was moved back to a 3.23.x patch. Does it feel like this is particularly lacking in content now that we've gotten to finally play it and see the whole launch and everything?
I'm not going to say no, but I'm also not going to say yes. Because for me, a lot of it, like I said earlier, a lot of the content that I was looking for got pushed to a later patch. So a lot of that hype kind of got pulled out from me. I did the calculations, and it's about 25% of the patch that was listed on the roadmap isn't in the game for 3.23. And that's a lot. Like that's a lot. It's not like it's cut entirely. It's just going to come out in like June, which sucks, but
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it would have been really convenient for everything to change at the same time rather than be like, here's the update. Oh, but in a couple months.
Yeah.
Not that that's the most important convenience.
No, but I mean, a lot of that stuff was stuff that people were really looking forward to, like cargo missions and cargo hauling and changing like your customizable hangar and your like the new the way you interact with cargo is completely different, and so there's a lot of aspects of the change which I'm sad that it wasn't in, and I can understand why people would be like, nope, not my patch. I'll come back when you add the stuff in.
I understand that.
But I don't think it's like completely gutted, though I do think a lot of the substance has been pulled out. Because what we have right now is good quality of life improvements for performance. The UI is significantly improved, which is good. The player movement has been improved. Lighting is amazing. Like they really went all out for this patch in terms of the looks and the feel. But if you played 3.22, the only things that really matter that are changes is master modes in the FPS system. The FPS system is more tweaks. And I'd say the master modes is really the big controversial one in terms of being changed. But even then, it's not, unless you were a shreddy, PvP or the combat player, probably won't notice that much of a difference, except for the kind of slight changes in how you get into quantum mode and move around a little bit.
I do wonder. Sorry, go ahead.
I just say some people that's a big deal. So to recognize that's a big deal, but I think for most players it won't be. So yes, it is sort of been gutted, but it also isn't, and it's not really gutted because it's still coming. It just like a couple months later.
Yeah.
So
I do wonder how the casual player that, hasn't been following this whole journey of development doesn't even pay attention to like PTU or patch notes or anything like that, how somebody is going to jump back into Star Citizen and discover this change of how flight works, the master mode stuff. Like, how annoying was that going to be? Because a lot of people, even knowing why that change is happening, are like, you should not do this. Is too much. It's complicating things too much, right? So what is the person who has no insight into it whatsoever going to think?
I actually think it's going to be easier. So the thing is I think that what this was designed for like the master modes change was designed to make it so that it was feel better for your average player. And I think a lot of the changes and the people being mad that things are changing comes from the fact that we've gotten used to how things have worked for so long. So this change is going to be a kind of we have to reset ourselves. It's I think we were saying earlier about like the interaction system. We had these really janky workarounds to figure out how to make things work. And now that you don't need that anymore, it's kind of like that. It's like you have to relearn how to fly a little bit. And that can be kind of frustrating for people who already have those muscle memory down. But for people who are just starting out, I don't think anyone would care. They'd just be like, "Oh, this is weird, but okay," because it really does map pretty well onto something like Elite Dangerous for like frame shift versus super cruise versus regular flight. And that's basically what we have now. Is we have quantum travel. What do they call it? Flight SCM or flight nav
flight
mode. Yeah, nav flight and SCM. It's the same thing. Like nav flight is just super cruise.
Yeah,
it's like a watered down super cruise.
And so we'll have quantum boost soon, which will be super
itself
cruise.
Literally super cruise.
Yeah. So it's not that much of an alien concept, is what you're saying. That people are gonna, at least for the casual person who might play multiple space games.
Yeah. No. I think it's pretty intuitive as a system. There are definitely problems with it, and I think that more comes down the line to once players have had months to play with master modes, like they can find the edge cases and the problems, and then CI. But at that point, hopefully CIG is going, okay, now we're gonna tweak this here, add this new feature here, and sort of kind of
refine it
and massage it to make it better. So.
Yeah. It's not often we see a flight model change in an update. That definitely adds to 3.23. And like you said, it's probably one of the biggest things, the most significant things. When it comes to, there's another one actually I felt was going to be a big change for this patch, at least. It's more of one of those big development changes because we know it's going to have a lot of ramifications later. But the reputation hostility stuff, have you seen that in action?
I haven't. But the fact that CIG confirmed that it's in the patch makes me happy because I'm a lore guy, and I've always said for many years that lore springs from stories, and stories are told when actions have consequences, and that's really what the reputation system is about. It's all about your actions having consequences. So knowing which faction is aligned with which faction. Will mean that you can't just take whatever is the most highest paying job anymore, and then having your decisions like, oh well, Hurston Dynamics pays really well, I'm just going to keep working with Hurston, and then finding out down the line that this particular rebel faction which hates Hurston has this really cool ship upgrade that you can get, but you can't get it anymore because you chose the Hurstons, not them. So you have to completely remove all your reputation with the Hurstons to work with them, and you're just like, and those sorts of things. And that's really what this is. This is that foundational building upon it. But I don't think it really matters because I think it's mostly just the system was put in place, but it wasn't activated yet because it's really for Pyro.
It's kind of like when they brought in the first version of Reputation. I think it was a December update. They put it in so it was working, but there was no way for us to see it or acknowledge it. And then the next update in like March was when we really got the feeling for it because you're like, okay, now I can see how I'm affecting my reputation. And I hope that we're seeing something similar here where, like you said, they put the system in and, come 4.0 with Pyro, we start to see a little bit more detail put into it. Because I think when you're running a mission or when you get offered a mission from a faction, you should either get told how that faction views other or what other factions view that faction in some way, maybe if it's relevant to you, or at least have a link to that faction on the reputation tab. Because I find myself thinking like I think they call them unlisted or unaffiliated missions, something like that on the new contract manager. Apparently, from Tyrus in our org, he was saying not all of those are illegal. You kind of have to figure out which ones are illegal. So like then you start to get consequences and benefits that have to do with both criminality and reputation. Maybe it's not illegal, but it could be one that still gives you that negative effect. And I feel like we need to get a clearer idea of that in the contract manager.
Yeah, a clear idea in the contract manager, or at least a reputation system. Like, because they even talked about a new reputation system manager, a new app that they're building for reputation, which they can put into the game, which is an overhaul of how reputation works, so you can actually start to see those connections. And Chad is talking about this right now, but this is something I do want to point out since we talked about reputation, is that right now, as of this recording, reputation is broken. The back end doesn't really work with reputation. They wiped reputation with 3.23, and you can't really gain it. But that's more of I feel like that's probably more of a temporary back end issue where they have to go back and figure out what's going on with why the back end isn't recording reputation, rather than being like a persistent bug that will always persist, because stuff like that has happened a lot with launches. Things like inventories of like equipment, like t-shirts or weapons or ships or whatever, just don't show up for some reason. It's because like it just wasn't connected to the back end properly. I think that's probably what's going on, but that is kind of one of the problems if you're jumping into the to the game right now, live as of the Saturday of May 11th. So
at the probably the most intense time to be jumping into the game, the Saturday after the patch comes out. Hopefully it's going well. That queue isn't too long.
No, last I checked, there was no queue hopping in. So
the Reputation app got a little bit of a rework this patch too. And one of the biggest things that came with 3.23 is a lot of update changes, from the interaction system to the map to the mobiGlass. How are you feeling about the mobiGlass rework?
I like it. I'm still a little mad that they didn't allow for the main screen to be customizable, but maybe that's something you can do in the future.
Yeah.
But it feels like an evolution rather than a upgrade of the mobiGlass. It feels better. The naming schemes make more sense. The visual acuity is a little bit better. It feels smoother, quicker, more responsive. And the fact that it's all done in building blocks means it's going to be a lot easier for them to change it, because they can, rather than having to bake in and build a brand new UI layer for all of them, they can use their proprietary system, which has a bunch of already pre-made stuff for them. So, yeah.
What do you think of the being able to use the mobiGlass while moving around? I saw somebody talk about that, wanting to be able to do that. And I don't know why I would want to, but I also kind of understand the idea of having a little more flexibility while using it.
Yeah, but I'm okay without it. I mean, it makes sense that if you're going to be interacting with the system, they want you to stop and pay attention to the system, not pay attention, not be running around, because you're just going to run directly into things when you do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, because the mobiGlass is literally your phone. So it's like if you have a phone and you're walking around on your phone, some people are really good at multitasking. They can they'll be on their phone and walk and do other things. But I'm just going to run into a tree if I'm doing that, or another person. So I don't know. I feel like that's fine. I feel like it's kind of like one of those, there's plenty of games like that, and it's fine. So
I don't see much reason in having that happen. Another surprise with this patch was the Mirai Pulse. Well, okay, I say surprise, but they basically showed us half of the vehicle all the way back in November. But we've got a new bike coming into the game, and a lot of the first reactions are, oh, another bike. What is your reaction to this?
Tiny bike.
It is a very
Hooray.
small bike, very small.
It's something we've really needed for a while, is something that can fit inside of a Titan. And it's apparently can fit inside of a Titan. So it's like the Gray Cat PTV can fit inside a Titan, and it's really not a good ground vehicle, but it's an okay ground vehicle. Whereas the Pulse is a great ground vehicle in terms of it's the same sort of handling you get from other um, bikes. It's not perfect, but it's okay. Better than the
Gosh,
ground vehicles.
I just wish
Um,
that they would, like, you saw the trailer they put out, right, for the patch?
yeah,
I wish that the hover bike would just work like in that trailer.
yeah.
Why do I have to hit a bump and then go flying 400 meters into the air for 10 minutes?
Yeah, it definitely needs more work on that one. But with CIG really trying to push the whole ground gameplay aspect of the game more and more, eventually we're going to need to have those smaller ground vehicles that can fit in smaller ships that you can then use for utility purposes. And that's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
And the aesthetic is pretty cool. I know you're a motorcyclist, so yeah, I felt like that it was very they called it a naked bike. I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
good analogy to it,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I mean, I I see what they're doing with it, and I'll
Mhm.
say I like the design for what it is, but I don't like it. Like
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan. I hope that we see another one come out that's of similar size. And I know even saying that people are like, why would we want yet another hover bike? But a lot of it is the company it comes from, the design it uses, the components they have, and honestly, I'd love to see something small hover bike, possibly from CNOU. I think would be really
Yeah.
interesting to see, but who knows? We'll see. How about, let's see, the wallet, the wipe actually. 323 has arrived with a wipe. This is one of those things that happens because it's an alpha game. And a lot of people won't play the game because of this. You lose your progress over time. Do you think that this wallet only wipe was a good idea? Do you think they should have also taken care of ships? Because everybody just went out and bought a bunch of ships and stuff. Except for me. I just lost a bunch of money.
um. Yeah. I'm of the opinion that wipes should happen more frequently because it's alpha. So there's lots of bugs that show up, and wiping things is a good idea. I think it's fine. I'm actually surprised they actually did that because I know they're trying to test some things out, but it's really clear that they want to wipe with 4.0. And CIG is very hesitant to wipe a lot because if they wipe too much, they know they're going to the people are just going to assume that CIG is always wiping, so they're just not going to bother playing because it's like, why spend hours and hours and months of my experience in the game and
Yeah.
only to have it wiped. So I think this was kind of a compromise where I'm sure the economy team was like, wipe it all. And the gameplay and interaction teams, like the teams who are involved in like making the gameplay and designing it, are just like, let's chill. Like, let's not do that because it's just going to kill all the enthusiasm. So I think it's fine. I think that you'll still get plenty of people who haven't been, no lifing 3.22, who will come in and be like, oh, I can play the game now, and then want to earn those ships and games.
But
So
they also raised the prices of ships. So they wiped money, but also raised prices of ships. And people feel like it was a little counterintuitive to not just also wipe the ships since we could buy them before the patch. Does this confuse you? Like, can you make sense of all of it?
yeah, I don't know why they did this. I think it's, like I said, I think it's a compromise. It just, because if they wiped everything, people would feel like there's no reason to hop on. But if they just wiped money, people would use it to go buy ships, but not everyone would. But again, I really do think it's a decision that's based off of the understanding that 4.0 is going to be a wipe, and CIG doesn't want to wipe like a full wipe, top
Mhm.
to bottom wipe. And I don't think CIG wants to do a top to bottom wipe with 3.23 because that would be two wipes in a row, because we all know 4.0 is next. CIG has not been subtle about that over the last 6 months, that it's like 3.23 and then straight on to 4.0. So,
which could mean that 3.23 just takes 8 months of time, and then 4.0
could.
ends up being the next thing. Yeah,
it could be
Yeah.
317 all over again.
Oh, yay. Let's see. CIG has been really pumping this patch up. They've been talking about it as a big patch, biggest one in a long time since 3.0, huge changes. Squadron 42 is coming in and polishing everything up. Do you feel like it matches the way that they've been marketing it?
No. It's big, it's good, and it's a important achievement from the developers who worked on it, because a lot of it is a lot of hard work, and they were able to pivot really easily. There's a lot of problems they had early on with like the UI, the blurry UI that everyone complained about, and CIG being like, or players being like, why are you obsessed with holograms? Like, why? Please, like something basic so we can actually see what we're doing. And they came in and was like, we understand what you're saying. We'll work on it. And they're still working on it even today. They're kind of trying to refine it a little bit. And the fact that they were able to turn it around in like a couple of weeks rather than months, it's like, oh, this is like an actual video game developer. This isn't CIG at all. CIG is typically the kind of crew that's like, we're going to do this thing, and we're going to spend 6 months to like really working on it and figuring it out, and then we're going to send it to prototype phase for the next 9 months, and then you'll get to see it. This was like a reactive, like, nope, we're going to change this, boom, and get it out. So that's impressive, but I don't think it lives up to the hype that they were. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. CIG overhyped it. They overhyped this since December. This is one of those things that they've really, really hyped. I think it's because internally they're very excited about it.
Yeah.
And I see why.
Internally, it's a big milestone for them. But as far as the outward-facing game, there's truth to the people who say that a lot of what people care about has been removed.
Yeah, I do think so. I like, especially with like the master modes changes and such, and all the stuff that was supposed to be in the game being pushed back to a later patch. It's just kind of like, it's like, it would have been fine. Like if everything came in at the same time, I think it would have lived up to the hype, at least moderately.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like, this a neat, but it's kind of all flash, little substance.
I think the main significance of this patch for me is that a lot of the things that we got with 3.0 that felt like they defined the 3.0 era of features are getting changed with this update. And that, I think that's a statement that they're moving on to a different phase with that. That's good. Unfortunately, those systems weren't the ones that people really care a lot about. Like this is the bounty hunting gameplay. It's not it's not in building interiors. It's not new missions. It's the very basic systems that we've been using, like interaction. So I understand why like that would be so significant for them. That's crazy. I mean, it's significant for us, for people who have been around here for a while. It is a big change, but you have to look at it from the perspective of the rest of the 80% of the player base. Yeah.
I couldn't say it better myself.
Well, speaking of marketing and advertising, how do you feel like they've been doing this year so far when it comes to market? This is always a fun topic to get into. We've got bones to pick in different areas, but go ahead.
I will say one of the things that always annoys me, and I think it's a knee-jerk reaction because of the rest of the gaming industry, is whenever a decision is made, people go, marketing is responsible for this. And I go, where is marketing in the room with us right now? Does marketing live under your bed and scare you at night? Does the marketing terrorize your children? Like,
marketing hides my socks.
Yeah, it's the reason why your socks go missing in the dryer. Marketing isn't a big boogeyman. The issue is management. CIG's management is making these decisions, and they are the ones who you should be pointing at. But you don't say, well, Chris Roberts making a bad decision, because that feels like sacrosanct. It feels like, oh, well, what? It's like, it's his game.
Happen.
It's like, well, and also it's his game. So it's like, he can't really make a bad decision if it's his game. Like, this is what he wants. So I think that's where people kind of get that, doesn't quite click with people. It's like, it's not just marketing. I'm sure marketing has a play in it, but it's a lot more than one person or one team. It's the entire management team that are making these decisions, possibly without all of the information they need. But CSG is also pretty good at like pivoting away from it. So that was my only little thing about that. It was whenever I hear marketing, I'm like, yeah. But overall, I think they're doing okay. I think I don't like the sale, but the sales, the constant sales, but
we've been sale heavy.
In a moment.
We've been sale heavy this year. There's a lot of different reasons people are attributing that to, but anybody who's watching this podcast probably is aware of the idea that Squadron 42 may be out soon, and that might have something to do with funding changes. But what's your view of the way they've been doing these sales? I mean, we've never seen a sale where they come out and say, "Hey, we've got every ship that came out last year. Why don't you check them out?"
I hate in case you missed it, sales. I hate that idea. I think what's happening is sale fatigue. It's that CIG is using sales and using every event as a sale, which is something they've done in the past. Yeah. But we're getting to the point where CIG is trying to appeal to a wider audience. They're trying to bring in new players. And I don't think that tactic is going to work long term. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing a slowdown in sales. Because really, if you look at the sale boosts, it's always around major events like CitizenCon with big reveals or new content. When new content comes into the game that people enjoy, you see the sales tracker go way up because people feel more confident in the game and more people want to get in and all that kind of stuff. There's more of a thing. And that's what the lesson that I hope CIG learns is content gives you sells ships. Content makes you money.
Yeah, the game improving is what makes like the biggest year we ever had was the year when they got that was 2020. There were two different years that were really big. First was when we got persistence finally, and the stuff went over on every update. You got to keep your stuff. The second year was I think 2022, and that was because all the YouTubers and stuff were playing. But like there were very clear improvements in gameplay both those years.
Yeah, I think 2022 is when we got the increase to 100 players per server. We had better improvement for gameplay. Like overall, there's a lot of things. And like last year was the biggest year we've ever had, and it had to do with CitizenCon. It 100% had to do with CitizenCon and CIG showing their improvements. And I do think we'll probably see an uptick with 3.23 and Invictus as they work out some of the kinks leading up to Invictus. I think we'll see another sales spike because Summit 1G has been playing Star Citizen routinely for like a month now on Twitch. And so that is he's one of the big names. I mean, he reacted to your content, I believe.
Yeah. Daymar Rally.
The Daymar Rally stuff.
Yeah, so, I used to watch his Halo stuff.
Yeah.
Can't go a show without saying Halo.
Side tangent. I saw an interesting discussion on Twitter about people being like the Halo Legends was bad because it was mixing of Western imagery with Japanese media, and someone was pointing out it's like Halo is inspired by Japanese media, and I had to go back in my Halo memory and be like, yep, this is a deep core memory pulling this back out, which is the original concept artist for Halo was the concept artist for I won't say CIG. Bungie's previous game for PS2 called Oni, which was a heavy anime influence sort of 3D PS2 game. And that artist in the art inspiration that they drew from and that Bungie was giving them was a mixture of 80s anime and aliens, which is an aesthetic known as cassette futurism. And if you look at the early concept, it's anime. It's just a straight up anime. Like that's what it looks like. So for those of you who didn't know, Halo is inspired by anime, and that's why it has all those sorts of bombastic, ancient alien themes and everything like that. It's Bungie's way they tell stories. If you've played Marathon, and obviously if you play Destiny, they still write it the same way. That's their style, but mixed with like a kind of a aesthetic the kind of the Japanese 80s aesthetic with lots of heavy doses of aliens tossed in there. So
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
definitely see the aliens influence whenever I do Halo, which I mean the
Look
dropship,
at
that's like classic.
look at like 80s sci-fi anime. Look at like for like ships designs, and then look at all of Halo ship designs. They're the same.
Okay.
They're
Cool.
practically the same.
Love
So
some Halo knowledge. Thank you.
yeah, you're
Um,
welcome.
so we were talking about how CIG has like CitizenCon really helped them last year. We all
Mhm.
oh my god, the slowdown last summer it was not fun. And
It
it
was
really
awful.
some of it was development, but a lot of it was them holding stuff back for CitizenCon. And they came out with CitizenCon. They said a lot. They talked a lot. They told us the game was going to improve. They showed us all this stuff. And, the natural reaction for a lot of people is this is the same thing we get every year. Every year we get told stuff about CitizenCon. Sometimes some of it trickles in within like a year and a half, but most of the time these are far out concepts. A lot of the stuff that they talked about at CitizenCon just got dropped into the game live. And I think this is probably the fastest we've seen a turnaround of a decent amount of content from CitizenCon to a patch. Do you feel like they have finally shifted to start walking the talk a little bit more when it comes to that stuff and maybe changed CitizenCon, or is this just a Squadron 42 anomaly kind of thing?
I think it's a combination of the two. I do think that CIG has swapped over. The reason why is uh, it's clear. They're done with a lot of the back end tech. Like they're burning down the last of the bedrock stuff they need to put in. And as that gets put in, it becomes easier for developers to make things. So they don't have to like guess whether or not their entire thing that they're coding could even work because it breaks some aspect of server meshing. Like
Yeah.
they're starting to get those early tests so they can kind of see where they can work with things. And as that's going forward, you're going to see more and more content being able to be able to go out on like the CitizenCon stage and say all of this is going to come out in 6 months and actually happen. But I do think a lot of like the volume that we're getting for 3.23, that is Squadron. That is a Squadron anomaly.
Okay.
Basically everything we're getting in 3.23 outside of the replication layer split and
Reputation.
Reputation, yeah, is straight from Squadron. The master modes, FPS changes, AI changes, the performance, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So you are thinking that we will kind of continue to see an increase speed in development from say what we were seeing last year, but maybe not quite what 323 is hinting at. Okay.
No, but I will say that I do think that one of the things that CIG will do is instead of doing something like 3.23 every 6 months, we'll have a like a new system once they have like 4.0 out. Because CIG can turn around those systems pretty quickly also. So I think it'll shift. It won't be the same, but it'll be more like, 4.0 is out, 4.1 comes out, and then like 4.2 in like May or April. It's like, here's Nix. Congratulations, boom, like that kind of thing.
So
Where
go ahead.
I would say like where you're getting more system content and more stuff like that versus the kind of flashy upgrades and those sorts of changes. So
It'll be less of the gameplay changes and more just new locations, factions, and stuff like that.
yeah, new mission like things, events, that sort of thing.
All right, to dip into a little bit of our speculation territory, because this is about 323 and what comes next. Since you already said it, you're thinking star systems with updates. Just spitball it for me. 4.0 comes out. Let's say 4.0 comes out late this year. We get Pyro. What are you thinking it's gonna look like getting the next couple of systems?
I think 4.1 is not going to be in a new system. I think 4.1 is going to be a balance and stabilization patch. So it's going to be a lot of CIG adding content that couldn't make it into 4.0, and maybe they wanted to like let it simmer, let it cook a little bit more with the developers. So they can work out some more of the kinks and add a few more things here and there.
Yeah.
It might so like that stuff might end up in 4.1 or it might end up in 4.2. but 4.1 by the end of the year, I could say solid chance for that.
Okay.
And 4.2 in like April with probably or possibly a new system. It really depends on how fast the turnaround is. But I think that at least we're going to get a new system next year as well. And then maybe two. And then probably by the year after that, we're going to get a system almost every release. So just because for a lot of people don't know, systems in Star Citizen are mostly barren. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was written before they had planetary landing, so they wanted to make most systems barren. But that also comes into the gameplay aspect of things. Like Nyx's main gameplay, for those who don't know, is a dark nebula. It's the whole system is at the edge of a nebula. So it messes with sensors and all these sorts of things. And it's clear that CIG's gameplay idea behind it is this is, Pyro is the hot, fiery, angry, solar flares coming out. It's like the Wild West meets Mad Max, it's crazy.
Which I heard Furiosa is pretty good.
I haven't heard it. I haven't seen it. So I gotta go see that. But Nyx is much more dark and moody. Like if the theme song to Pyro is like heavy metal, Nyx is a noir soundtrack.
Ooh, because Nyx is my kind of place.
Yeah, it's more subdued. There's a lot of factionalism, but it's all about like you're not radical enough, man. You're not trying to bring down the government enough, man. But it's all like sort of like clandestine. There's hostility, but it's usually on the surface calm, but you can't really see much because your sensors are going to be blocked a little bit. And it's much more of a calmer outlaw experience compared to the crazy outlaw experience of Pyro.
Yeah. Still an unaffiliated system though, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's still an unaffiliated system. It's an outlaw system. It exists outside the law. And we already have the landing zone, which is Levski. That's the only one. So most of the planets are going to be, there is no habitable planets in the Nyx system. We may end up getting one or so, but like my guess is that they're not going to. They're going to be really heavily leaning into that sort of, night aesthetic because Nyx literally is the goddess of night.
Yeah.
In I think Greek mythology. So like that's the whole point of it. Pyro, hot, fiery, violence. Nyx, night, calm, subdued.
I like that.
Yeah. And most systems have that. Like they have a theme that they stick to. And they are an aesthetic they go for. Like Magnus only has one landing zone. It has one planet that's habitable, but it's a little bit more outlaw. It's still UEE. Terra is the center of the UEE, so it's got a lot of, or the commercial center, so it's got a lot of, it's hustle and bustle. It's very like upscale and all sorts of, it's diverse, very busy. But most systems don't have what Stanton has, which is like every planet has a landing zone.
Yeah.
Every planet has because Stanton is a starting zone. So, and it was there kind of playing with it. So as the systems come out, they're going to become faster and faster because there's just not a lot other than adding factions, maybe new types of buildings, and maybe a couple of different, creatures they want to add. But those are a lot different from, can we get server meshing to work?
Yeah, which is why they've been focusing so hard on Stanton instead of trying to open up other star systems and continue to build the game like that. I mean, why not just do it all in one star system for now until all the background technology actually works?
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. So I think as a result, it'll be faster to develop. The slowdown is always going to be the hero landing zones and the factions that they have to kind of craft up with like their own uniforms and their own, characters and such. But so I think in the short term, we're going to get one, maybe two patches by the end of this year with 4.0, which are mostly just kind of getting 4.0 in and then stabilizing it and putting some more stuff that they couldn't get in before. And then next year we'll get a couple more patches with at least one, if not two, new systems in place where we're going to start to see Star Citizen grow to the size that it has to be for their 1.0 release.
Yeah.
So
you said that you call Stanton a starting location.
Yeah.
I think that Terra is going to be like when they get to that 1.0, they're going to start everybody in Terra. What do you think?
Maybe. I think they'll have options, but I think it'll be like Terra will be the noob zone. Like,
So you think
you've
they'll
never
let
played the
people
game before.
like pick which star system they want to spawn in on?
Oh yeah, they already have
Ooh.
that in the menus, and I think that'll get refined. I think, but where's your home location? Oh, Terra, cool. You're new. Here's the tutorial. It's a lot easier to get around here. Oh, you're a little bit more spicy. If you feel a little bit more adventurous, Stanton. It's not perfectly safe, but it's got a lot of different options there. And if you're like, hey, blood for the blood god, here's Pyro.
I forget that they can
enjoy the mayhem.
I forget they can really. We're so used to this game being in development that I forget that it can be gamified to the point where they can say that. They can be like, hey, you want to spawn into Stanton? Well, it's kind of dangerous, but you'll get to have some fun and blah blah blah. Because I'm sitting here thinking, oh well, Stanton, well, you got 2 gangs there, you got 4 landing zones, you got to go through this detail and that detail. And it's like, no, they can just like simplify this stuff as a game for people instead of having to teach them a whole dossier of details before they load into the system. That's gonna be a weird change.
They actually have ratings. The lore has ratings, safety ratings and trade ratings for every system. They kind of dropped it, but the idea still exists. Where the Terra is a low threat, Stanton is a medium threat, and I think Pyro is an extreme threat. So that will be like their leveling system. You're a new player, go to Terra because it's low threat. Green, super easy, fun and safe. Pyro or Stanton, yellow threat. Intermediate, not very very hard, but gives you more options than Terra, but it's still more challenges. And then Pyro, which is here's the keys, kid. Good luck, don't get shanked on the way out, kind of thing.
The Pyro start should just have you waking up on the ground on some planet, like no spaceship. You're almost out of oxygen. Just like
I think it'd be funny if your ship is there, but you're like out of oxygen. You're almost out of oxygen. And there's like an empty bottle of booze by you, and like the gun with 1 bullet, and you're just like, I have no idea how I got here.
You crashed the ship. It's the No Man's Sky start. The ship just won't work. Oh my god. Yeah, no, that would actually be very cool if they dove into the whole. You don't have to go crazy with this, but like you get to choose a backstory for your character, and so they start you in a different, like maybe you choose a spacer, so they start you in a space station off in some system that's not that common, or maybe you're a belter, they put you in the Halo belt in a ship. There's a lot of opportunities for that when you actually start turning this into a game, which is cool.
Yeah, and I think that also allows for like gamification for backgrounds, like if you want to be put into a location, that will give you more reputation to start off with than just a regular start. I think that gives meaningful choices, which is all about what CIG is about. Sorry.
Yeah. No. We keep talking about this gamification, it becoming a game and all of that. And I'm starting to get that feeling with this update in particular, but that's also bringing a lot of new debates to the forefront. We're not really talking so much about development, more about opinions of how the game should work. And what's your take on the way, because when we do this, we hyper focus on one part of the game, right? We say, oh, this is changing in flight, this is going to ruin the whole game, without maybe thinking about how there's something outside of flight that needs that change. Same with FPS and stuff like that. Do you feel like CIG has bitten off a little bit more than they can chew by focusing so much on so many different styles of gameplay, and that getting people to think that gameplay is most important?
Partially. I think the problem that CIG currently has is the problem that CIG has had for a while, which is they have teams of very passionate people. Like, you can say what you want about Zach. Zach is a I guess controversial figure because of a lot of different choices he's made for FPS combat. But I follow Zach on Twitter. He is a absolute down like hardcore FPS player. That man will play any game that is an FPS game and have an opinion on it. He is very, very like committed to FPS gameplay. And Yogi, no matter what you say about Yogi is absolutely committed to the experience of flight. And the problem, I think, is that Yogi and Zach are dealing with a game that doesn't have all the features they want yet. And so they're trying to build an experience without having all of the tools to finish that experience, but they need to give it to players before that because they want to improve the game. They want to kind of keep evolving the game.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's the real reason that CIG is kind of at times fumbling a little bit, is because they want to do something. You look at Elliot and the team who does the teams who do missions. There's tons of cool ideas they want to do, and they've even talked about a couple of ideas that they had to kind of cut or like kind of go back to the drawing board for, probably because the tech isn't ready for it yet. And so it's just more of what's changing is changing because it has to change, and CIG will improve when a lot of that tech that they're waiting on being implemented, server meshing, reputation systems, full reputation systems, maybe even the vaunted quantum system. When those things are implemented, it becomes a lot easier for them to just develop rather than worry about what Team C is doing for their events. So
Yeah. That's a good point. I feel like that's a universal Star Citizen problem. I mean, that's why we have the problems with spaceships we have now. They had to build the spaceships before the features could run them. And now we have situations like the Reclaimer Claw, as they have to figure out how to make use of that in a system that doesn't really need it. Man, but it does feel good to be debating gameplay.
Yeah. I would say when you were saying that, I felt like, what's that? Smells like gamer. That smells. That's Monster Energy drink sweats and taquitos at 4 a.m. smell of debating what the balance of the Karna should be. I like it. I'm glad we're doing that and not like arguing if CIG should even exist.
Right. We're still doing
Is
that.
It even possible?
They just live side by side now, right?
But it's slowly becoming more angry gamers on the internet and less, I want to see this game fail sort of conversations.
Yes.
So.
Dude, the public conversation is changing so rapidly. I mean, it doesn't feel rapid because it's over the course of maybe a year or so, but the difference between what you would see 8 months ago on a Dexerto tweet about Star Citizen versus, and that's like super obscure, I know, folks, but I'm just using this as an example because I just saw it yesterday. Like
you just posted it.
Yeah, compared to 6 months ago, like the comments are almost universally from people who actually play the game because there are enough people in the wild that just play this game. Whereas before, it would have been like a small group of people who maybe said something, but most of the comments would just be like people who don't know anything about it. Yeah. And it's really cool to see things like, big names like Asmongold bringing it up on his YouTube channel. And, you can have whatever opinion about him you want. The fact that he has that much reach and he's bringing it out in such a casual form and talking positively about that, it changes things. And like you said, Summit 1G doing the same thing. I'm sure we'll see Jack Frags make a video of this now that FPS has been a little bit updated at some point in the next couple months.
Charlie talked about it. Pirate Software talked about it. There's been multiple talking heads of the internet and of gamer culture who have been bringing up Star Citizen in not a negative fact. Like even like Pirate Software, who's a former Blizzard dev, who's getting pretty big on YouTube. He mentions his critique of Star Citizen is more that he likes that it's improving and there's definitely improvements, but he still hates the fact that there are more. There's more.
The sales and the.
Yeah, it's more sale oriented. Yeah. There's more sales than there are gameplay.
Yeah,
there's more ships for sale than there is actually elements of gameplay. Yeah, and he says for him that's a red flag. And it's like, I get it. Mm-hmm. So. But last I heard, he wasn't like this game's a scam. It's or awful,
Yeah, so. That feels like it is more, or it's less a thing that's coming from reputable voices now. It's getting to the point where if you have a reputable voice, it doesn't work as well to approach it from that angle. And I think people are starting to feel like, okay, I need to actually look at this and consider it before I talk, and that's good. That's solid. That's all we want. Let's just talk about the actual game,
Speaking of which, do you want to hear some breaking news for your audience? Because I'm just looking over it at my Discord.
I love breaking news.
So Terada is at BCon, which is going on this weekend, which I heard you are unable to go, which sucks, but hopefully we'll see you at CitizenCon, maybe.
We are hoping for it, yeah.
Okay. He managed to sit down and talk with Jared and with Chris Roberts. And Chris Roberts made a comment that they're going to get dynamic server meshing in this year.
What?
Yeah. Jared's face
Chris.
was not plussed.
Chris, I'm sorry, what? Call me back. What? That's insane. We're not even using static server meshing yet.
No. But I mean,
Chris.
I understand where he's coming from, which is the idea that because even the tech teams are like, why do we have to do static? Why can't we just do dynamic? We can just push it to dynamic, right? So I think I do, and I'm talking with them, Benoit and those folks at CitizenCon. There's very much a kind of a feeling of we can get static done, but we also want to get dynamic done because static is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not. By the way, when I say dynamic, for those of you for context, almost certainly he's not talking about what's called dynamic 2, which is what we know of as dynamic. What he's talking about is dynamic 1. So
okay, yeah. See, now we're breaking it out into steps. So what are we PTU waving this and making this 3 waves into 5? It's you got dynamic basic, and then you got static dynamic, and then you got the dynamic. It kind of moves around, but it's mostly static.
I think the major changes between dynamic 1 and static is that it's just static, only the servers turn off as no one's there.
Okay.
That's it. So
Gotcha.
It's still fixed, but it just turns off and on, so it doesn't have any problems.
That's more believable.
Which is really what they wanted to do, because they wanted to get it so that it's so that it's not costing as much, and then it means that the replication layer doesn't have to work as hard and all that kind of stuff. So,
couple people from my community ran into Tony Z this week, and talked to him, basically confirming he's still there, he's still doing Star Citizen stuff, and he also, I think, made a couple comments about static server meshing and just the idea that like they would want to move past it, but they're going to go through with it because they need that testing and that data, and to kind of figure things out in that early process too. Ultimately, though, it feels like everybody, I mean, you can't say this about Chris Roberts, it's universal for him, but it feels like people are a little bit more willing to open up about these things. Like, you notice that we're getting a little bit more conversation, at least in my perspective. The devs are talking a little bit more about the work they're actually doing. The Jared included, but the folks are more willing to clap back, I think, a little bit about criticisms that they know are wrong, whereas they wouldn't before because they maybe have a little bit more evidence. But it feels like they are of a different mindset now than they were pre-CitizenCon.
They have that swagger. I've been saying it. They have a swagger to them, and swagger isn't necessarily like swagger can be what do I say? It can be bad. It can be overconfidence, but it can also be self-assured. And I think CIG is a little bit more self-assured, but also kind of maybe a little overconfident here and there. But I agree, 100%. They have that. They're coming in swinging, being like, "This is a video game. This is what we're doing." Stop complaining about. Yeah, I think they've been humbled a couple times. Jared. I remember Jared famously saying, "Hype. I will not hype. Hype is the mind killer." Kind of things. And Jared, basically since December,
hype beast.
He's been hyping. He's been the biggest hype man of all. And I know a lot of people think that like, oh well, Jared is always overhyping. So Jared is usually very conservative when it comes to his discussions of Star Citizen in terms of like timetables and all that kind of stuff. He's been very community oriented because, like a lot of people at CIG, he was a member of the community before he started working for CIG.
He knows,
so he understands that mentality. But he's just been leaving out on the table, being like summer 4.0, the kind of stuff. It's just like, okay,
all right,
okay.
There's a pretty big topic. Okay, we gotta wrap things up. I'm so sorry. I want to real quick before we head off of here. Bed logging is a big topic that I think is going to become a much bigger topic over the next year as they start talking a little bit more about it. It's losing its significance. What is your take?
I think they clarified it, didn't they? They said that
you
can log out.
It would
at
give you
any ship.
buffs, but you
It'll give you
can
buffs.
log out anywhere in the game. Is the goal.
So about like a year ago, I had one of my many, like, I don't know how to call it. It's like streamer visions where like you're doing something or you're talking with chat and suddenly something clicks and you're like, oh God, that's what they're gonna do. Based off of conversations and discussions that like CIG has. And one of that sort of like streamer revelation that I had was, oh God, CIG is going to do rest XP bonuses. That's what the beds are for, the rest XP bonuses. And for anyone who doesn't do MMOs have this sort of incentive for you to log off, where if you have a bonus buff that'll last for 4 or 5 hours and then it wears off, which is the dev saying, go to bed, stop playing, get up, move around, because they want to try to incentivize people to leave the game and then come back, partially because they don't want burnout. Also, they want to balance it properly. And I think like there's some countries that legally have a timer that you can only have a certain amount of time on those. I want to say it was South Korea had one, and I think maybe China had one. But yeah. But the idea was to just like incentivize players to kind of log off and come back. And I don't think CIG is going to do an XP bonus. I don't think they're adding experience points to it, but I do think they'll do things like your stamina regen won't go as much. You'll be weaker. You'll be easier to get hit and stuff like that. Which I'm a little. My initial thought is no, please God no, God no. I don't know. But at the same time, I'm like, getting advantage, like telling people to log off so that even the Shvet Lords will be like, oh, well, I need a ship with a bed in it, because if I don't have my 0.2% experience, better player stats, I'm going to lose my engagements. So, but yeah.
I don't know. I've been doing some research, and I found out that there's a stretch goal that's kind of linked to the feature, and I'm wondering how they're going to get around. It's for 14 million, and it's basically this idea that exploration people will be able to log off and on from their ship so that they can continue doing long voyages. And the way they say that stretch goal makes it sound like specifically they want there to be a limitation on how people can log on and off if they want only the group of, this specific feature to be a thing for these people. So I wonder what their play is if that is a stretch goal.
Yeah, that was I think that was the original plan. Like that was always the original plan,
right,
as far as I understood, which was to log out and be safe. You'd have to go to a bed and your ship would disappear. And now that's not the case. Your ship's just going to disappear normally, even if you're not there.
But this is we're learning this, right? Like actively.
Yeah.
Last week that was just changed, basically.
Yeah, basically.
I don't think they've ever said anything else about going that direction before, and they've very much said things about bed logging being the only way to log off.
Mm-hmm. That's a complete change to what it is. Then again, I've learned enough about CIG in the last couple of weeks to know that there's a lot of things that CIG internally are like, yeah, this is obvious. We've said it. We've talked about it multiple times. that the backer community is still like clung to as like truth that isn't actually true anymore. So,
maybe they have mentioned that. I don't know, but.
Yeah, it may have been just internally, like since PES, like, oh yeah, this is what we do, and everyone knows, but they just just assume everyone knows.
Oops. Forgot about all those millions of people. Well, we'll see where that goes. I'm sure that'll come back up. But thank you so much for joining me for this show, Paul. I am going to, folks, if you didn't get to catch this one, we are live right now, and I'll be probably trying to raid everybody into his channel as he goes live, and I'll be on his Captain's Table podcast later today.
Yes.
But
talking more 3.23.
Yes, more of this, basically. But thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Thanks for checking out the launch sequence. This is our weekly show. Comes out every week, and our supporters are able to see it live just like this every week. We've got a couple different tiers for supporters. You know how it is. You got a referral code bonus here, a little exclusive video there. Everybody is able to come to these live podcasts. So thank you guys for being here live. And thank you, Paul, for coming in. Before you go, can you let everybody know where they can find all your content and the podcast I'll be on later?
Captain's Table, office hours, and all those other sorts of kind of playing games and kind of talking about games is twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. And if you want to catch my lore content, including complete history of Star Citizen Part 4, which is done, and will be out for Patreons this weekend, and everybody else after Invictus, because I know Invictus is going to eat all everyone's time and attention. Is coming out soon. I do a complete run through of the entirety of the Star Citizen universe, from the very first references in lore in the 21st century all the way up to today. So, but also lots of other content, including lore on Helldivers, Starfield, and a bunch of other games as well. So, and that is youtube.com/TheAstroHistorian.
Well, thank you so much again for joining me. It's always a good time talking. 323 is out now. It's live, folks. If you want the chance, go check it out. There's a free flight coming up in the next week. So if you don't want to, spend any money right now, you can get in without doing that. But I'm going to pass y'all on. Thank you again for joining us, and I'll see you all next week.